Alright, I'm back and I'm here to basically show you how to do raycasting from a different perspective. So, follow up on the raycasting video is okay. So let's just get this sorted, shall we? Right, we're going to be raycast. This is a raycast from camera space, so it will always shoot from the center of your screen. There are times when you want to raycast from somewhere else. So raycasting just from a different position is quite simple because it's the same function, just a different origin and different end. The origin end literally dictates the direction of the raycast, so you can shoot in any 3D world space direction using those vectors. However, this is slightly different what I'm going to do. If you was making a 3D game with a cursor that's not fixed, or a 2D game like an aiming game of some sort, you'd probably want to do a raycast from your cursor, right? Not from your camera. So to do that, it's not too bad, it's really quite simple. Oh my god. Right, we'll go over here, and then what we'll need, first things first, is we'll need to make another Raycast function, so void raycast from cursor. Right, let's make him. Okay, so there's a function. Now we just need to push that guy into here. So when you shoot from the cursor, it will shoot. And then there's a few things you probably want to do before you can set this up. So first things first, in the default HUD, this draws your crosshair. We want to change it so we can move our crosshair based on our controller's position. So what you want to do is, here I think is the best spot, is get a reference to the world. So this is how you do it. Right. And then you get a reference to your player controller, which you can do using the world, actually. This will be slightly different if you're doing a multiplayer game, but that would have to be online, which is much harder than... yeah, it's just hard. So that will get the first player controller, and then what you want to do next is you want some... Now, I personally think this is really messed up. They made this wrong. Just saying. Right, so you need your X coordinate and your Y coordinate, and then you need to check if your player controller is was cast successfully to the first one. So this won't get run if your guide mysteriously lost his controller, which should never happen, really, unless you deliberately destroy it. Right, and then you do my player controller, and then you can do get mouse position. And now the reason why I think this is wrong is because it's called get mouse position, but you have to pass in some variables. So it might as well be called set mouse values, set mouse position, something, because you're setting. This is setting these, which is what I thought was extremely strange given the name. Right, so what it does is it gets your cursor position and puts those cursor coordinates into these variables. Okay, that's what it's actually doing, but it feels weird. And now what you do to use them is to make a 2D vector, which is important, because you're literally only using the cursor screen space, and now you actually this one's the set. It just doesn't make any sense. It's just strange. I'm sure you can understand why this is strange. This is again. This makes a vector 2D with those coordinates, right? That's that. And then tile item position equals this new position. So just in brief, get your mouse position coordinates and store them in some two local variables. Store those two local variables into a local vector 2D, and then push that local vector 2D to set the tile item position. Tile item is the crosshair that it's being made, right? Because it's using this shenanigans up here. And that literally just so get set. That's kind of what's going on. Actually, I kind of get why they've done this, because you can't return two you could return a vector 2D and then you could just pass it straight into here without having to do this. That's how I would have done it probably. Anyway, that will let you move the so just as demonstration, at least I hope it does anyway. So, play. Yeah. See, I can now move my cursor freely. It also moves my guy, which is probably not what you want. But you can just turn it off by turning off the input turn rate and stuff. There's 4 lines, 2 for analogs and 2 for keyboards. You can turn those off if you want to be fixed, and then you can implement your own rotation stuff, which is how I did it initially. Right, but anyway, you can get this crosshair position. And now we need to make the raycast from screen space, so I could hit that one over here, say. You probably wouldn't use it for a shooting game because it looks a bit weird, but it has applications in other genres of games, I guess. Anyway, so this is the groundworks to make the cursor move, and it's pretty simple. Play a controller, 2D vector, make the crosshair, drawn crosshair go to that position. So that makes sense. Raycast from cursor. Now this is slightly different. It's not too complex. So once again, gonna need a reference to the world. You always need a reference to the world. Right, so there's your world. Then you need your controller, once again. So you can just do the same thing as last time. And then make sure he exists. You always want to check your pointers, otherwise you'll be getting crashed. This is the first thing that I picked up on that was incredibly crucial and fundamental to C++. If you don't do this, the editor will be closing itself left, right, and center, and it's goddamn annoying. Okay. Now we just need to do pretty much the same code, because you need to track where your cursor is. In order to shoot at that location, right? So I'm sure there's probably a way of just avoiding this repeated code from the HUD class. Maybe, do we have access to the HUD class in here? I know the game mode has access to it. So what you could probably do if I wasn't being lazy right now is probably can make all that HUD stuff into its own function, call the function there, make it public. And then you can get that function by going from the game mode, getting HUD, calling it here, and then you can just return the F vector 2D. However, I ain't got time for that. And this honestly isn't that expensive. It's not. Do what I said if you're going for like perfect. If you're going for just like perfectness, it doesn't really matter for this though, because it's such a minute amount of code in the grand scheme. Okay, so there's that, and now, right, so we've got the vector 2D mouse position, so now we have where we want the hit to take place. Now we need the hit result, as with the previous raycast. So you need a hit result, you're going to need a trace complex, so trace complex, const because it shouldn't change, you don't want this to be changed for no random reason. Now you can do. Now the line trace is actually not on the world; it's on your player controller. So, because all the mouse stuff is on your player controller, it's called get hit result. There we go. Get hit result. Screen position. Pass in your vector 2D as the first parameter. Channel, which is the same as last time. Trace complex, which is constable false, and then of course what you hit. So, and then so if that hits something on the right channel with the false trace complex and returns into that hit value, if hit result, we'll do the same as last time just because it's the simplest thing. is not null. Alternatively, you could do is null and return if you wanted the subsequent code to not run, but because we've only got one chunk of code, this wrapping it around the not null is fine. And bam, that is actually shorter than this, but that's because we don't have these guys. Should we get the animation? Actually, you know what? Just because, make it play the sound and that all the time. This stuff is really up to you. Probably make a function and stuff to call these, so you don't have to copy this all over the place. Because, yeah. What I do in my actual games is I make an animation component, stick that on anything that I want animations. It'll have an array of every animation I have in the game, or sound effect, particle effect. So I'll have one for each, and then you can just do like animation component, play fire animation. I don't know, whatever you want, right? So I just make my own little components to do this, because this will blog out your code pretty quickly actually. Because if you're doing a larger game, you'll have quite a bit of effects to make it good. To make it look good. Okay, so that'll do that, and now that's honestly it. I think that'll work. And just because we can. And now I did change it, didn't I? So raycast from cursor on fire pressed, and we should be good to go. So recap: in the HUD class, make it so your cursor follows your mouse cursor. There's also a variable on the player controller called bShowMouseCursor, so you might want to put that to false. I think it's false by default, but every time you spawn in, it like starts true, and you have to click on the scene, which is kind of annoying. There's bound to be like a lock to viewport, snap to viewport, or something of those lines to get rid of that, but I'm not 100% sure on it at the minute. It closed itself. Why did it close itself? That means something was used badly. I don't think I've used anything badly. No. Sometimes it happens just because Unreal. Not even kidding. Like, I had it crash on me once where it's like the .t dock pointer is null when you're trying to move a window, and it just crashed, and I was like, wow, this is right. So how I had it was I was running it from the Epic Unreal Engine thing, so that's not from debug mode. That's just in standard development mode. This would be running it from debug mode. So if it does that again, it would snap to the line where it crashed, which was probably some Unreal header somewhere. Yes, get used to that because that happens all the time for no apparent reason. Because I'm reading this, and this is crash proof, you know. World won't run if it's not null, player controller not null, blah, blah. Oh, this looks good to me. Yeah. Alrighty then. You can restore. There wasn't too much up here, so. Oh yeah, I also fixed the gun. It was invisible because I left in a line, which was mesh 1p. Hidden in game true. Get rid of that line. Right, so now if I play it, shouldn't crash. Right, so now if I shoot this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. See it? That's pretty much it. Although it's kind of awkward in this type of game because it goes off screen. There's bound to be some blocks somewhere. Haven't tried locking it myself because I don't use it in. Oh, it locks on this side, but just not this side. Interesting. That's weird. So you can tell the origin coordinate system's up here. Must be the resolution of the window. Out of bounds. Anyway, yeah, that's pretty much it. I wouldn't recommend using it for this genre, but other genres, if you wanted to be fancy and make something else, could be useful. You know, just being aware that you can do that is the main point of this video. Just recap, there it is, and this. Alright, so that's it for this one. Till next time.